moments.
Welcome back to the Morning Brew. It's Tuesday, April 23rd, and our show is underway from downtown Albuquerque. We want to thank the folks at Lindy's for the view, our beautiful view overlooking the Chemo Theater in Central Avenue, downtown Albuquerque. All right, let's get into our first segment today with our special guest. He is the dealer partner and general manager of the new Ford dealership in Albuquerque, Power Ford. Darin Wade is here on the Morning Brew. Hi, Darin.
Good morning, gang. How are you guys?
Fantastic.
How are you?
All right. You know what? I'm super excited to just get to see you guys again.
Oh, well, thank you.
I understand you two are running buddies in a way.
Well, we are, and I was telling her, I said, you need to get on that app a little bit more because it's the motivation that that gets me to get out and put the shoes on. Yeah.
It's a Nike app, so you have friends that kind of motivate you to run. So
that's right.
I'm running more. So
with all the social media stuff out there, and it happens every time between my friends, they'll check in that they're at some fitness place or something like that, and it reminds me, oh no, I gotta go.
And I'm doing something other than that,
absolutely,
right? Like working and so forth.
You bet.
Hey, congrats on the new dealership and your new gig.
Well,
this is a neat thing.
A lot of people don't know this, but I'm an Albuquerque native. I was born and raised here. I went to my first university here at the University of New Mexico. Yeah, my kids were born and raised here. My wife was born and raised here as well. And my 12-year-old daughter, Mackenzie, told me today, she said, "Dad, don't be a grandpa." That happens to be my nickname. Your producer was worried that I wouldn't be able to talk. And little does he know that I can talk so much that I'm called Grandpa. So, as far as Mackenzie said, and she'll always remind me when I'm going too far, she always says, "Back when I was a boy." I'll typically tell those type of stories, but she said do that. And then my 15-year-old son, Hunter, said, "Dad, nobody wants to hear about the car business." My wife said the same thing. They said, you need to tell people stuff that you did that got you to that place that would be motivating to them.
Yeah.
So at 3:30 this morning, I got up and I changed my whole thing that I wanted to talk about with you guys. And, for me, it was, this has just been such a blessing is what it's been. And, I think the motivation behind all of this stuff happened when I was a tennis player and I was in high school and real competitive kind of guy. And my parents were both school teachers, both worked for Albuquerque Public Schools, both retired. And I don't know how they did it, but at that time I was doing soccer and tennis and basketball and swimming and piano and wrestling, and I have no idea how they got us to all that stuff, my younger brother and I. And I had lost to this guy at, it was a championship title, and started tennis when I was very young, and I could never beat this one guy.
Yeah, there's always that one guy.
Yep, I was so frustrated that I told my mother, and we were never poor, but we were one of those people that we had to, never had the name brand stuff, always had to work for that kind of thing. And I think I had tapped my parents out that whole summer with all the tournaments and all the money that goes into all that stuff that you have to do. Kids are super expensive, as I now know very well.
Yes, they are.
But, they had... I had said to my mom I had worn through another pair of tennis shoes because I would drag my toe every time that I would serve. And my mom told me that we had to go to Payless because we couldn't afford another pair of high-dollar tennis shoes. And I said something that I wish I could have taken back, and I watched my mom cry. My mom is one of those people that was the stoic person in the family. And I watched her cry, and I told myself, I'm never going to put my parents in that position again where they feel like that they want to be able to provide and they may not have the opportunity to do so. So I think that's kind of all where it started. And, I always had visions of not being that person if I didn't get the right education, so to speak. So I think that was kind of the motivation. And then, another thing that we had looked at was, always trying to find asking for help. A lot of times, a lot of people, especially young people, have a hard time asking for help, especially if you're a type A personality, because you know everything. Everybody tells me I still haven't figured that out yet. But when I was at the University of New Mexico, they had a place called ANTS, the Association of Non-Traditional Students. Yes. And I don't know how I stumbled onto this thing, but what that was is I didn't make enough money to go to college, but got a scholarship in order to go to the University of New Mexico, which was a wonderful deal. And I really thought I was going to be a counselor. And then when I got a C in my first psychology class, I figured out I don't want to do that anymore. So you had to keep a certain GPA, and I'd always had a pretty high GPA in high school, but I had gotten a 2.5 my first semester at the University of New Mexico, and it scared me so much because you had to have a 3.0 GPA just to keep the scholarship. So as I'm trying to instill in my children is that, you know, the education will allow you the opportunities to do what you want to do. You have a bigger opportunity instead of having to settle for something else. And so I stumbled on this Association of Non-Traditional Students, and what it was a bunch of surveys that students had filled out on all the professors. And I realized very quickly that in my first semester, I was choosing everything that was convenient to me, and not necessarily based on the best professor that taught the subject. And I was one of those students that, and that's part of the encouragement that I'm looking for, is I was never the sharpest guy. It would take me 2, maybe 3 times as long to learn something, but once I learned it, I knew it. And as I got older and older and older, I started to see that I believe there's a lot of people that are out there that it just doesn't come to them naturally. But if they spend enough time at being good at what they do, or good at what they learn, they tend to retain that thing a little bit longer.
What have you learned about leadership that you didn't know before?
You know, being as young as I was, I constantly got that. You know, there was I remember my wife and I, we were going someplace, and we were on an airplane, and I had a baseball hat on, and I was probably 26, 27 years old, and the stewardess came up to me and she said, "Sir, I'm sorry, but you can't sit in this row." So what do you mean I can't sit in this row? She goes, "Well, you know, you have to be, what's the age, like 15? You got to be 15 to sit in this row." And so, you know, being as young as I was, I've had some great mentors along the way. And one of them always told me, he said, "You know, Darin, you got to wear the jacket." And as far as the leadership goes, and what he meant by that is he said, you know, whatever position that you're in, you want to be the best that you're in. And it doesn't matter if you perceive it as a low-level position or a high-level position, people are always watching you. And the leadership principles that I've always been taught have been that you need to lead from the front. And all this education stuff is great, but the doing the work, the experience level is just as important, if not more important. And, you know, for me, I've been in the car business for 22 years. I started when I was 18 years old as the invoice filer, and worked my way up through the dealership and did every single chair. And I think one of the advantages of that type of scenario is that what you ask people to do, you've done before. And I think that people on the leadership side, most people that I know of, if they know that you've done it before, and if you lead by example, you know, kind of lead from the front whenever possible, you'll build those much better relationships as far as leadership goes.
So what's like one piece of advice then you would give somebody who's wanting to start a new business or start something new in life?
Man, I'll tell you, the deal first is that you got to be committed. I mean, you got to be truly committed to that. And you know, we have this deal that's called the Compass at my dealership, and it's about 6 things that we go down through. And the first thing is that you have to have a unified team. But when it comes down to the commitment, you can't fake commitment. I mean, a lot of people can fake commitment for a short amount of time. But if you're really committed to something, it's long term, you'll be able to see that. And I'd always encourage everybody is that you got to be passionate about it too. Because if you do, then it's not a job. I mean, you know, I don't know why I thought about this, but I always thought that, you know, when I get to a certain level in this organization or this deal that I'll be able to spend less time at work. Man, was I wrong. You know, I'm still doing 11, 12 hours a day, but it's not a big deal because I'm passionate about the business. And
you never work a day in your life.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, you know, you're starting out in this new position, new Ford store and everything else. How do you balance the family time and the work time?
Well, it depends on who you ask. If you talk to me, I think I'm getting it pretty good. If you talk to my wife, it's not at all, you know. But yeah, you know, it becomes a way of life for the family is kind of what it becomes for. And you know what I always hope for is that when my kids are old enough, because you know my son, he's in high school now, just started high school, and my daughter is in middle school, and I hope that they see the fact that, or an example of not the entitlement mentality, that you kind of got to work for what you get, and when you do, they can see the results of the efforts.
Wow.
You know, we haven't talked one bit about a car yet.
No, we haven't, but I'm willing to.
And that's all right. It shows you who you are and what kind of business you run. We do want to put the website for Power Ford up.
Sure.
And so far, so good with the new store?
Man, I'll tell you, nobody that I've ever seen in a scenario like this has ever said, our business is doing so well, we just want to give you a piece of it. So, this has been a work in progress, and, I'm happy to say that it's done amazingly well. There's a great team of people. We're 135 strong over at Power Ford.
Amazing.
And a lot of these people have, there's a lot of tenure that's there. And what a great opportunity that's been, is that, being born and raised here, I have all my connections. I used to work at a different Ford store, so I've got all my connections with Ford Motor Company, from Detroit all the way down to the region, to the state of New Mexico. And not only that, just all the community members themselves. So it's just been a wonderful opportunity.
Congratulations on your success, and you're going to knock it out of the park.
Already doing great.
Darin Wade, everybody.
Awesome.
Darin Wade with Power Ford, brand new Ford dealership in Albuquerque. We'll be back on the Morning Brew in a moment.